Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the video for Clair Obscur Expedition 33. My name is Ventus SGN. Alright, so you're here because you want to know how to use Gustave a little bit better in Expedition 33. Don't worry, I got you covered with this simple guide that will make you an expert with him in no time. The guy is actually insanely broken. He can do insane damage, can heal himself, and can even buff the members of your team, which makes him a super powerful unit to have on the field at any time. Alright, so the first thing is how to build him right for max damage. Well, in this game, weapon damage scales off of your character's attributes. So let's say you have his weapon, the Abyssal Ram, equipped and you want to use that weapon accurately. Well, we'll have to increase Gustave's vitality and defense because it scales off of his vitality and defense. So far, I've collected 7 weapons for Gustave, and only 3 scale off of defense, 3 scale off of vitality, and 3 scale off of luck, while 4 scale off of agility. So based off this knowledge, you should probably invest more into agility than any other stat for Gustave, followed by vitality, and then probably defense and luck. So let's just say you have a weapon that you really like to use with Gustave, or any character for that matter. Look at what it scales off of and raise that stat. My Gustave stats at level 24 look like this. Vitality is sitting at 12, might is at 5, agility is at 25, defense is 15, and luck is at 15. Alright, so next let's go over his skills. In the early game, Gustave has a really well-rounded group of skills that he can choose from. He's got support skills, healing skills, and damage skills. When it comes to support, he has the skill Powerful, which costs 3 AP and grants a damage buff to his allies. In the same vein, he has Marking Shot that costs 2 AP and marks a target for your other party members so they can use abilities that only activate when attacking a marked target. Another combat skill that he comes with that benefits the entire team is Shatter, a skill with the ability to break enemies' guard while giving Gustave full charge if it breaks the enemy's guard. This skill costs 5 AP to use, and it's one of his best skills. For healing, he has 2 abilities that give him self-heals. One is called From Fire that deals damage to a target and heals himself by 20% if the target burns from the attack. It costs 4 AP to use this skill. His other skill is called Recovery, and it's just a straight up heal that restores 50% of health and dispels status effects. It costs 3 AP to activate this skill. For his damage skills, he starts with a few good ones. The first one being Lumiere Assault. This is a 5-hit combo that gives Gustave a charge with every attack landed and gives an extra charge for each critical hit landed. Second is Shatter. Now this one is a very useful ability because it attacks all targets on the field at once, and if Gustave manages to break a target, he gets a full 10 charges. His most powerful skill though in the early game is called Overcharge, and it costs only 4 AP to use. It's his strongest skill because it has 4 different levels indicated by the number of charges he has showing on his status at the bottom right hand corner of the screen. At 0 to 3 charges, the energy around his prosthetic hand will be white and the damage will be minimal. At 4 to 6 charges, Gustave's prosthetic arm crackles with a light green energy and it does slightly better damage. At 7 to 9 charges though, Gustave's arm crackles with purple energy and the overcharge ability does a decent amount of damage. And then at a full 10 charges, Gustave's arm glows with a red energy, and that's when his overcharge ability is at its strongest. More often than not, in boss fights, the red overcharge is going to be your win condition, especially in the early game, because it deals insane damage and usually will break and stun enemies at the same time. Now the question is, how do you get those charges so you can use that red overcharge? Well, each time Gustave attacks, he gets a charge. So if you do a single basic attack, that gets you a single charge. If you do his Lumiere Assault that deals out 5 basic attacks, you'll get at least 1 charge per attack, giving you 5 charges. If one or more of those attacks are critical attacks, you get an additional charge. It costs 4 AP to use his Lumiere Assault. Another great way to get charges is by using his Shatter skill, because if you break an enemy with it, you'll get full energy. Shatter costs 5 AP, however, so when trying to power Gustave up so he can deal real damage with his overcharge, it might be necessary to have other characters use energy tints on him to make sure that he has the AP to do his skills. But just make sure when you use his Shatter, it's not wasted, so keep an eye on the enemy's break meter. Now, there is another side to Gustave early off, and that's dealing damage through marking targets. At the start, he's the only character who comes with the innate ability to directly mark targets, putting a giant red X on them. When a target is marked, it allows for other characters to deal extra damage if they have the right Pictos or Lumina equipped, things like Burning Mark that applies burn to mark targets, or Rewarding Mark that gives 2 AP for damaging targets once per turn. Now, it is possible for other characters besides Gustave to mark targets by using the Marking Shots Pictos that has a low chance of marking targets with free aim shots. Alright, so now that we know all that, let's go over some strategies for Gustave in combat. So when it comes to strategies for using Gustave in fights, the main goal is to get him charges so he can use his overcharge on the biggest threat on the field. Using Lemuria's Assault as a starter for him is good, and like I said earlier, if you are fighting a group that has weaker enemies, using Shatter right at the start would be ideal because it attacks all monsters at once, and if one of the weaker monsters gets broken, Gustave automatically gets full charge so that when it's his turn again, he can use Overcharge provided he has the AP to do so, which in most cases you should use one of your other characters to give him an energy tint so he has the AP to execute the attack. With all that being said though, here is a build that you can use with Gustave so that he starts off every fight with enough AP to use his skills without relying on tints or having to do extra attacks. Give him Energizing Start 1 and Energizing Start 2. This gives him an extra 2 AP when you start a fight. Dead Energy is another great choice because it also gives additional AP when you eliminate an enemy using him. Dodger is another one. It gives AP just for dodging once per turn, and Energizing Break gives 3 AP whenever you break a target. Now this is really good when you use Shatter at the start of the fight and get a break on weaker enemies, so you get charges and AP at the same time. And then also you could go the complete other route with Gustave and start off by marking targets with Marking Shot, and then if other characters are equipped with Burning Mark, you could set your targets on fire. Alright, so that's going to be it for this Gustave starter guide. If you did enjoy this video and it's helpful, be sure to hit that like and sub to the channel for more advanced Gustave guides that are on the way, as well as guides for the other characters. If you have any questions or suggestions, please drop them down in the comments. Now, if you have any tips or advice, please feel absolutely free to drop those in the comments as well. The longer and more detailed, the better, because I love reading information so the community can benefit from your knowledge. My name is Ventus SGN. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Peace out.